But when it comes to skills, it's really up to you to prove that you got it.
Yeah.
And so long as you know that you've put whatever amount of work in, right, and have a command over the language of the thing, it's really just you. And I don't want to oversimplify it, right? Of course, there's numerous factors at play that make that difficult. But I know that when I step into a room, nobody else has lived my life. I am the only Stephon in this room that lived that way, right? There might be another Stephon or two. I've met a couple with the name spelled that way, but I'm the only me, right? You are the only you. So I am uniquely qualified to do the things that I want to do because I've prepared for this.
Welcome to another episode of the Pepper Soup Talk Show, where we bring the shakers and movers in the diaspora world. We're very honored today to have Stephon Braithwaite-Martin. I apologize if I...
No, you said it right. You got it.
Right. So, but we're very honored to have this special guest on our talk show. Stephon is on this show because he has a lot of experience in the business and consulting world. And as you can see, he also comes with swag. So if you definitely need some sort of tip on how to take your style to the next level, but also like how to really put your brain and business brain out there, this is the guy that you want to listen to. So Stephon, welcome to the Soup Talk Show.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Excellent.
It's always a pleasure to be here and to be a returning guest. I'm looking forward to what we chat about. I'm always down for the open format. So let's get into it.
Right. So we're excited, Stephon. So let's get into it, like you said. So just tell us a little bit about who you are.
Yeah.
Just a little bit about your background. Where you were born, where you were raised, and then we will start transitioning to the professional work.
Oh, for sure. So, what's up, guys? I'm Stephon Braithwaite-Martin. I do a few things, but I'll keep it brief. But so, day to day, I'm a business management consultant. And I do that for my own firm, Rhetoric Advising. So I don't work at Deloitte, don't work at Accenture, don't work at McKinsey. I work for myself. And that's not a knock to anybody doing consulting in that way. I sort of approach business management consulting through the lens of brand strategy. So I help companies sort of understand where they stand in the market as from the identity standpoint. And then we work on sales and marketing strategies based off of that. So my background has always been in sales and helping people tell their stories in powerful ways. I'm an avid storyteller. I'm an avid reader. That's the stuff that drives me, helping people sort of communicate those stories, particularly black and brown folks, because I think we have some of the most powerful stories that often don't get told. And I work on doing that every day and helping them turn that into sales. So that's what I do sort of day to day. And I'm also co-founder of the Connect Pro, which is an organization, a company that functions as part network organization and part DEI strategy firm. And so my partner and I, Senzwa and Shepe, we were looking at Philly and saying, look, Black and brown folks, they get somewhere around their late 20s, early 30s, sometime before 40, and they reach sort of the middle of their careers where they're looking for that VP title, right? They're looking for the good salary. They're looking for the stock option. They're looking for those things. And then the well starts to dry up. And what we realize is it's like, okay, well, it's not that the jobs don't exist in Philadelphia, right? Philadelphia is a city. It has jobs and things like that. The well just dries up for us, for people of color. And so people end up moving to cities where, whether realistically or just sort of how we perceive it, there are better opportunities. The New Yorks, the DCs, which is where I live now, right? So I'm one of those people. The LAs, the Atlantas, things like that. So we looked at it and we're like, Philly is a fantastic city. Philly has tremendous potential. how do we cultivate this talent pool and create a network where they feel like they can belong, where they feel like they have real connection to the city, and then how do we make this a BIPOC talent attraction, retention, and cultivation strategy for all cities, right? Where, Philadelphia is definitely our case study, but we're looking at Baltimore, we're looking at DC, we're looking at Atlanta, of like, what do the Black and brown folks need that are like trying to build their brands up, whether as entrepreneurs or professionals, and what can cities and companies do to be able to like actually deliver on that promise of increased diversity? What does diversity look like for them? How do we make that happen? And so, yeah, we do community really well. We have, a very strong and growing, quickly growing network. We do events. We, try to put people in crazy positions of influence, and we have masterminds and all sorts of things. So we could talk about that all day long. But yeah, that's what I do. A lot of my work is about understanding the stories of people, creating an ecosystem for them to be able to thrive, and just trying to put people in positions to win, man. That's what I do.
It's incredible. Definitely sound like you was just a man that wear multiple hats. So, but let's just take a step back here.
Yeah. You did ask me like a general question that I didn't finish answering. I'm sorry. My bad.
But let's just take a little bit step here. You talk a lot about stories and the power of stories and how companies can really see their story as a leverage to really like to monetize on that. And most of the time we don't think about it that way. When we think about story, we think about our personal stories. Yeah. But talk to us a little bit about like the power of knowing your story.
Oh yeah.
And how that could be how that's also connected to business having their own story.
Right. So I think the thing that people often get wrong about business is that they think about it as like just a logical sort of transaction, right? So when we think about business, we always are like, I sell bottles of water, right? Labels in. I sell bottles of water. And my water is, the first thing we think about is my water is cheaper than the other water. My water tastes better than the other water. Buy my water. And what happens is when you have a bunch of people in the marketplace that all have the same, what we call a value proposition of my water is good, buy it, what's going to differentiate you from anybody else, right? How do we connect with people in a way that it's like, I want to buy Stephon's water because I love his water? And so the importance of storytelling in business, and we can even talk about just general in terms of in real life, storytelling is what allows people to connect with something bigger than just the logical, linear things that we think about. Understanding the story of where this water was bottled, for example, right? Or understanding the story of why I got into water. What made me want to do that? Jaden Smith is selling a water just on the basis of it's water in basically a milk box, and it's recyclable, and his whole platform is around sustainability. So people are going to buy that water. People are going to buy this water because it was bottled somewhere fancy, and they're attracted to those things. So that's the importance of storytelling. And then just going back into sort of, particularly as Black and brown folks, why storytelling is so important to us. Storytelling is the first way that people get to understand make sense of the world around them. The way that you learn about your family is through stories. The way that you learn about sort of the things that make up your ethos, right? Your creed, the stuff that governs your life, the way that you learn that is through stories. And so that's really the vehicle that we're able to communicate information in ways that actually stick. So that's why storytelling is so important and why I spend so much time like getting lost in them.
So you said a lot of important things in your introduction. One that Sekou touched upon is, the power of storytelling. Second is, bringing people of color into a place of influence. And another thing I want to highlight is, within your organization, what exactly is that place of influence and then also tie into, you know, when you're going for an interview, there's also an aspect of storytelling of why you came to this position, and you really need to learn how to sell yourself in order to get a good position.
Yeah. So yeah, I can speak to all of those. So for the Connect, the thing that when we talk about the position of influence, we're talking about the ability to, on the lowest of levels, the ability to be able to sort of just communicate the vast wealth of knowledge that we have to somebody else, right? So that flow of information, of experience, of knowledge is a position of influence. Because I, as somebody who, you know, I've done a thing or two, I haven't seen everything yet. I have mentors, I have things like that. If I can share some of the things I've learned or share my story, and that enables somebody else to be able to do something that I was trying to do in a faster amount of time, that's success to me, right? In other spaces, it's putting them in a position to be able to make money. So oftentimes when we have people who are looking for, I'm looking to hire X person, right? A photographer or whoever. If I can say, look, we have this organization, and because of an event that we've had, or because of an initiative that we had, you two are able to connect and collaborate on something, right? That's influence to me, right? Because now we're able to circulate our dollar in a way that probably wasn't going to happen before, right? And so we really look to be the conduit for value, right? Because the value exists in Philly, right? There is money in Philly, right? Even though Philly is what the poorest large city in the country, there are still dollars that can be circulated. There are still things that we can do to help make our lives a little bit better. And so we, as the Connects, a part of our ethos is, look, we have this framework for what what folks need to sort of feel legitimized in these cities, and we're going to work towards that. But as we work towards that, we're going to sort of place ourselves in the middle and say, look, we see that over there. We know somebody over there that needs it. Let's see if we can move this around for you guys. So,
Right. So it's sort of like creating these hubs where people are really able to make that professional connections, but also like be around people that also like empower and inspire you to truly believe in your dreams, right? Right. So your focus, Stephon, is also, to me, is like brand, storytelling. Because when you know how to tell your story, you're also setting yourself apart. So you're creating your own brand, right? So how do we get people to truly embody this mindset about like your brand, like the Connect Philly is a brand, right? And when you're associating yourself with a certain brand, it does have an impact on you. So what can you say about branding in general? But what can you say about branding from an individual level that people need to know in order to be successful?
for sure. So I can connect. Yeah, that makes sense. All right. So I can connect those two, your second question and this question sync very well, right? So going back to your question around storytelling and interviews, right? What I think a lot of people, what I wish more people understood about storytelling and brand is that brands are not just for large businesses. They're not just for Pepsi and Coca-Cola. Everyone is a brand. A brand is essentially, what do you stand for? What do I care about? What are my talents? Where will I invest those talents? That is what a brand is. So when we walk into an interview, what I always tell people is three things. So one is, I almost never talk about degrees, right? I almost never talk about what I studied in college.
Can you elaborate?
Yeah. So the reason why is because college, the degree honestly is the piece of paper, but what the degree actually communicates is the skills I learned in college. So it's not just I have a poli-sci degree, right? So people are like, oh, so shouldn't you be a political scientist, or shouldn't you be a politician or a lawyer or whoever? And I was like, well, no, the skills I learned with my poli-sci degree actually enables me to run a business quite well, right? Because I had to be the entire time, my entire degree requirements was being a critical thinker, being able to compare and contrast things, going out and doing research, collecting survey and poll data, making sure that data is actually legit, right? being able to understand how governments and people work and what inspire them to do things. Those are all things that I had to do. So the degree saying political science, it's almost meaningless. What really matters is what I spent my time doing and the skills I learned. Now, bringing that back to an interview and bringing it back to the idea of brand. When I think about building a brand, when I'm sitting down in an interview, I'm thinking about all the stories that led me to this point. So if I'm sitting down and I'm looking to work as, I don't know, give me a role, anything.
Product manager.
A product manager, right? I'm sitting down and I'm thinking about, okay, what does a product manager do functionally? But more importantly, how does that product manager fit into the landscape of this company? So if I'm trying to be a product manager at Pico, right? And I really think about what Pico's mission is, right? If they're looking to be, Pico's kind of a monopoly, right? They are the power company. But if their goal is to be able to equitably provide power to the entire greater Philadelphia, right? And I'm a product manager who's going to be working on, I don't know, let's say they're rolling out a new service for lower income folks, right? Now I have to think about how my personal mission aligns with this project. What have I done to work with lower income folks that communicates that I understand this landscape, right? What have I done to show that I know how to work with various groups of people? What have I done to show that I understand product really, really well? So it's not just about, okay, well, I spent 5 years at this company. These are the things I've done. This is what I've accomplished. It's like, I am this kind of person that's going to be the perfect fit in the landscape of the story of Pico's initiative. Right. This is where I can take you guys based on what I stand for, what I know. And this is how I think I can help you write this story. Wow. And so people now are like, now your hiring manager is like, oh, okay, well, damn, this makes a lot more sense. Right. Rather than, okay, well, you guys all have the same degree. Great. Okay, you guys all did the same. You guys all have the PMP certification. Cool. And like, what differentiates you guys? Mm-hmm. So that is what's going to be able to do it. People who have command over who they are and their identity are able to get that little extra edge. And when it comes to competition, but they're also able to galvanize folks to do things they might not have done otherwise because they believe in what you believe in. Right. So.
Right. And then this just goes to this. It also could be the difference between like people like you name people who thrive and people who like survive. For sure. It's like, there's some job when we look at it from a superficial level. The first thing you look at is salary. But I think, like, again, Stephon is just literally dropping the gem here. Because this is like, we're having an intelligent conversation here. So I just want folks to understand that, because these are information that you could actually like implement in your life, and you start seeing the difference.
Right. I'll give you a really dumb example.
Right.
So one of my first jobs, actually my first job, and I've told this story before, but my first job was at Foot Locker. I was 16. I got a job at Foot Locker, ridiculously far from my house. So it was like a 2-hour ride to this Foot Locker. Yeah. So I got a hookup and I was like, all right, well, this is the Foot Locker I'm at. So I got to take 2 trains and a bus to get here. That's just what it's got to be. If my parents can't drop me off, that's what I got to do. I take public transportation all over the city. And I'm from New York, by the way. So for those who might be from New York or understand New York, I lived in Brooklyn. Yeah. I was going out to pretty much Long Island to this thing, and I wasn't taking the LIRR, which is like the commuter rail. I was taking all the trains and buses to get there. So I had to go through Queens to go it was ridiculous. I was taking 3 trains technically and a bus, and then walking 15 minutes. And so I get this job and I do the training, and I'm finally on the sales floor. And one of the things that happened at first was the more experienced sales associates and the managers, they wanted, they're like, look, you're the rookie, you're a weekend employee, you do not get to sell in the adult section, right? You gotta chill in the kids section, chill in the apparel section. This is where we're at. And this is 2010-ish. So like the foam-posite pearls were out, cool grays were out. That was around that time. And so anybody who's worked at Foot Locker, especially back then, hourly pay was $5.50 an hour plus a 1% commission on everything you sold. At 16, I'm like, this is fire. I'm gonna be cool. Like this is gonna work for me, right? Not knowing exactly how it was going to add up, but I thought it was gonna be fine. Because in my mind, I'm like, I'm gonna sell an infinite amount of shoes. My 1% is gonna be cool. If I sell $10,000 worth of shoes a month, I'm cool, right? I'm only there Fridays, Saturday, Sunday, every weekend. I don't know how I thought I was gonna sell 10,000, but anyway. So I'm there and I'm like, damn, they're not gonna let me sell, these phone posits. Phone posits are $220. That's good commission, but they're hoarding it. So they have me in the kids section. And this is when I really figured out that storytelling was the move. So somebody might think, okay, well, I'm selling sneakers, so I need to be like, look, this is the best sneaker for you because it's comfortable, because it's inexpensive or whatever. And that's what it is. What I learned was, look, these sneakers I'm selling are for $60. They're selling their adult sneakers for $220. What am I gonna do to be able to make the money they're making? Because they're just selling foam posits, right? They're not gonna sell no socks. They're not gonna sell no sneaker cleaner because adults don't really care about that stuff.
Right.
But a kid and their mom and their dad, maybe. So I'll show you. They walk in and it's back to school time, right? So it's like August, September. Mom comes in, says, look, I'm looking for a pair of sneakers for my kid, right? Great. I'm rather than focusing on what I can sell her, I am focusing on her story, right? Her son is moving into 5th grade. It's a big move for him, right? Her son is there. The son is excited. What do you want to study? Oh, I want to do this. My favorite class is gym, I already know he's going to be running around in these, right? He wants to run around. He wants to feel confident into new school, right? So he wants something that's going to be flashy. He don't want to, another, just any old pair of sneakers. The mom's coming to me and it's like, yeah, it's going to be different because we're doing this. He's moving into middle school. I'm not really trying to spend like $100 on a pair of sneakers, but I do want a sturdy pair. Now I know, okay, well, she wants something that's decently priced, but she does want something a little stylish. So it's not gonna be a pair of Skechers. Maybe I can get her a pair of Nikes. You know what? There's a Nike Airwaves. They kind of look like foam posits, but he's young enough where it doesn't matter. What's your favorite color, dude? I like purple. Bet we got a colorway that's plum. I'll bring him out, try him on. He's walking around, he's visualizing himself in school in his uniform, doing whatever, wearing the sneakers, right? The mom is like, okay, cool. He feels confident in his shoes. He's doing all that, right? And I'm like, Mom, do his feet grow fast? They grow okay. I'll get a half size up. Okay, cool. Well, we can get him a couple pairs of socks because he has socks from last year. He did sort of like wear a hole in a couple of them. All right, well, look, we got a pair of socks, 2 for $10. Yeah, okay, great. Does he have da-da-da-da-da? Okay, cool. He might message. Does he have white sneakers at home? Oh, he has a pair of white sneakers. Do you guys clean them? Nah, not really. They're dirty. I was like, don't buy another pair of sneakers. Buy this cleaner.
Wow.
Right. So now I'm thinking about all the things that made her come in there that day. Right. I'm answering her questions. What is she not confident about? What is she worried about? What is the kid worried about? So now I don't even have to sell the sneakers anymore. The kid is selling the sneakers. Mommy, can I have these?
Wow.
Right. And so by doing that, I ended up selling just as much as the adults that were selling the grown-up pairs, because I was able to like, okay, I really understand why you're coming in here. And now anything that I tell you is based on what you've been thinking about. You're going to tell me yes. And not only are you going to tell me yes, you're going to come back with your cousin or your sister or whoever, because I was the kid that helped you understand what this was and I listened. Yeah. So I have a million of those stories. When I worked at Banana Republic, there was a similar one. I'll be brief with this one. A guy came in making really good money and he was like, look, I'm kind of embarrassed, but I need an outfit for a date. Okay, cool, no problem. Well, what you feeling? Well, we're going here, da-da-da. Okay, button down shirt. You like colors? Nah, I'm not really a colors guy. Okay, cool, we're gonna do blue. We're gonna do a light blue because it's not anything crazy, but at least it's not a white shirt. Yeah. We do this, we do that. Long story short, he buys like $200 worth of stuff. Right? Because the money didn't matter to him. Like he was a professional and he was like, okay, we're going to buy some stuff. And I bought him some things. And then he came back and was like, look, I need 3 suits.
Wow.
Right? You're the guy that helped me out. You listened to my little stupid story about blah, blah, blah. I need 3 suits. So that's what storytelling can do on the sales side. So imagine what that can do on the like getting people to believe in me side, the getting people to defend me when I'm not around or put me in positions to be able to win. So yeah.
let's dive into that. That was, you know, yeah. So thank you again, Stephon, for sharing your experience and wisdom with us. We always want to take a moment to thank our viewers and those people who join us, so they could also take a moment to reflect and really soak up all the knowledge that you're sharing with us right now. Because the great thing about what you're sharing with us, like anyone could apply this to their life. But I think my biggest takeaway, Toby, you could also say, Stephon, based on what you said, this concept of authenticity, you know, come from a place where it's genuine, but also like see people the way they are. You know what I mean? Like everyone like coming with a story, but it's also something you were also learning from all these people that you were coming.
Oh yeah, for sure.
With.
Yeah.
But that's like my takeaway. Toby, do you want to share your takeaway from that?
Yeah, I guess the one thing that really did stand out is you know, transferable skills. Just being able to understand the story and leverage to where you need to go. You did, you know, your example is more in the retail sense or the sales sense, and trying to transfer that into how did that work for you? How did you leverage it in the professional environment? Or another example, just to paint a clearer picture.
Yeah, for sure. So I think that the one thing that I've always thought about, right, is that idea of being able to transfer things, right? So I've sort of from young, it's basically made this decision that nothing I do exists in a silo, right? So there's nothing that I've done here that cannot be done here. I exist in all these things, right? So I think that first sort of fundamental understanding of like, even though this might have been a different industry or this might have been a different time or whatever, I retained the knowledge, right? I didn't forget how to do this. I didn't forget that it happened. All I have to learn is this new system and deliver based on those parameters. So I think a story of how I've sort of been able to do that in different industries is, I'll give an example. Actually, the story of Rhetoric is actually a good example of this. So Rhetoric first existed as a tutoring company. So I first started, I'll actually go even further back than this. So in high school, I had a couple of different like side hustles, right? And we were talking about transferable skills. I didn't even consider myself an entrepreneur in high school. I wasn't even,
Rhetoric is the company you founded.
Rhetoric is the company I founded, yeah. So my management consulting,
Can we put that up?
Yeah. It's my thing. It's my thing. Yeah.
Stephon is the founder of this consulting company.
Yes.
Rhetoric.
Yes.
Back to you.
Okay. So so the company I founded, I'll make sure I say it with my whole chest. Yeah.
That's why you on the hot seat right now. Right? You're doing a lot of things right, and we want to learn from you.
So going back to high school, right? I had a number of sort of like side hustles that I had that were pretty much solely because I didn't want to have to ask my parents for money every week, right? I didn't grow up with a lot of money, so my parents gave me $10 for the week. I was really supposed to make that stretch till next pay, right? That was it. And that was back when, like, you know, you can buy a slice of pizza for like $2.50, so you can do a couple of things with $10, right? Yeah, now
you can go to mommy poppy store.
Right, you can do a little something with that, yeah. Right. So for me, I was like, okay, well, I went to public high school, but there were people who were like from every socioeconomic class, right? So there were some rich people in my school who were like, oh yeah, I'm buying Chinese every day. I'm doing da. I'm, you know, buying food. And I'm like, whoa, chill. Like I could buy chicken wings or I could buy French fries, but I'm not buying chicken wings and French fries in the thing. But so one of the things I first started doing was tutoring. So I started working with folks for like state exams and things like that, and sort of helping them write their papers. And so part of it was, I'll be real, statute of limitations is up on this. I was ghostwriting some of these papers, right? But what I would do is I would learn how you wrote, analyze that, and write like you, your syntax, your diction, everything, but better. And so if you had gotten an 80 on a paper before or 75 on a paper, I wasn't trying to get you 100 because then we both get in trouble, I was trying to get you an 85 or better. And I started to learn my teachers around like, okay, well, I know what this person would say as a teacher of like what they would want to see more from you, right? Whatever that was. And I will help you do that exact thing and get the grade that you needed to do. All right, so it was like a little side thing I did. But then that turned into like legitimate tutoring because I was like, oh yeah, I actually can help people do this. So in college, the university piloted this program, the public speaking consulting program. And so it was for students, faculty, and local business owners to be able to come in and work on presentations and projects and work on their speaking skills. So I do that. Once I graduated and I was bouncing around, transitioning careers, I was doing that on the side to make a couple of dollars. I landed on, I'm like doing this, I'm like on this platform for tutors. So I'm like tutoring an 8-year-old at the time. I'm tutoring this one like brilliant doctor who's working on taking the TOEFL, which is basically like the English speaking language test, right? So I'm helping her do that. And I'm working with this guy who's working on his MBA. And the guy with the MBA was sort of how I transformed into being the consulting firm. So I'm working with him on this final project, and he's doing like sort of like a capstone project and sort of pitching this one store in London. I think it was like a what is it called? I'm forgetting the name of the Urban Outfitters in London, right? So we're doing all this analysis stuff, but the project kind of sucked. Like, I ain't gonna lie, right? Hopefully you're not watching this, man. But the project kind of sucked. So I'm working with him on like building up this project. And as we're talking, I'm recalling other conversations I've had with people about like, with my the professors working on their dissertation defense that I was helping doing their PowerPoints, right? The business owners that were coming in and the things that they were doing, the competitions I was in, and being like, hey, well, we should change this and like approach that, and let's tell the story about this, and let's really focus in on that, blah, blah. Long story short, he does really well on the project. He finishes it, completes his degree. He's like, look, I need you to meet some people. Like, you know, I'm coming to this thing, like, come with me. Go to this thing. I'm in a Starbucks. I didn't have Wi-Fi yet. I had just moved to Philly. Didn't have Wi-Fi. So I was in like every Starbucks in Philly. So shout out to the Starbucks on 39th and Walnut. Yep. Yeah. Shout out to them. They used to be open till midnight. Yep.
It's still there.
Yeah. That's my spot. But yes, I go and I make some business cards on Canva. Print them out, overdraft my account at FedEx to print these cards. The flimsiest paper I've ever seen. It was nasty, bro. I drive out to Radnor to go to this thing. My dude does not show up. I don't know nobody there. Nobody. Right? So I'm just like, all right, cool. Well, this is Rhetoric Advising, and this is what we do. So we start as a communications consulting, sort of like, I can help you write things, I can help you manage the stuff, right? So I'm sitting in front of these people, and I have to like pitch them on, I can help this 55-year-old guy who makes $300,000 a year on communicating emails better. And I'm like, how the hell am I supposed to do that? But I'm like, yo, show me an email, bro. Ew. So it's like, okay, well, look, this is what I've done before in this industry. Well, how does it apply to this industry? Do you speak English? Yes. Is communication important? Yes. Is convincing people important? Well, yes. Is building relationships important? Well, yes. So I start to think about not just the transferable skills, but like what remains true regardless of what industry that you're in, right? Building rapport will always remain true. Right, being able to clearly communicate an idea will always remain true. The amount of sort of grandstanding that you do to get people to you know, embrace your idea may vary, but being able to effectively talk about what you're talking about and get people to trust you, it's always going to be the case. So I will always have a job because I know, I look at the commonalities and not what I know, but what I do and say, all right, well, regardless of whether I decided to be an oil miner tomorrow, like working with an oil company tomorrow, I will know where I fit in because this is where I win.
But
That's dope. So one thing that was really impressive is, you know, just the confidence to essentially walk in a room full of I don't know, thousandaires, millionaires, whatever you want to describe them, with no backing and being able to be like, okay, you kind of had that identity. This is who I am, and I do belong here. You didn't have that kind of like, imposter syndrome or nervousness. How did you develop that confidence and in that? I believe you said you overdraft your account to make the cards, and now you're like, this is do or die. And,
I damn sure got the fee for that. Yeah. So that's not to say that I've never had bouts of imposter syndrome, right? And I don't think there's a person on this planet that's never had to deal with that before, right? Even the most confident people have moments, usually in private, where they're like, is this really, I don't know, man. All right, well, we're going to get to it, right?
Yeah.
Always. And so for me, that moment was on the drive, right? 'Cause I was like, I don't know who's going to be there. I don't know what's going to do this. But then I get there and I'm like, look, dog, we going to go home. For real? Like, we are here. Let's get to it. Let's get busy. And so I will flip the question back on you really quickly, right? Who decides what makes somebody qualified?
Themselves.
It's the only person that really matters.
Yep.
Right? There is no, I mean, with some exceptions, right? You cannot be an attorney if you don't pass the bar.
Right.
Right? Like, you got to pass your boards to be a doctor, right? You got to there's certifying bodies out there. But when it comes to skills, it's really up to you to prove that you got it.
Yep.
And so long as you know that you've put whatever amount of work in, right, and have a command over the language of the thing, it's really just you. And I don't want to oversimplify it, right? Of course, there's numerous factors at play that make that difficult. But I know that when I step into a room, nobody else has lived my life. I am the only Stephon in this room that lived that way, right? There might be another Stephon or two. I've met a couple with the name spelled that way, but I'm the only me, right? You are the only you. So I am uniquely qualified to do the things that I want to do because I've prepared for this. Now, if I walked into a space and I'm like, nah, I'm not ready for that, right? You got to be real with yourself. If you're not ready for it, you aren't. Or if you don't know everything, which is another thing, being qualified doesn't mean that you know everything about the thing.
Right.
You do not have to be the smartest person in the room to be qualified. In fact, I encourage you to be middle of the pack at best, right? Like, you shouldn't be the smartest person in the room. But like, where I think about, and I think where you're going about this is like, in like your job, career stuff, right? For me, I've always looked at it as I do not get paid to have all the answers. I get paid to help to know the process to finding the answers. There's gonna be a lot of stuff I don't know when I get there, right? And if I'm doing my job right, I'm gonna encounter a lot of stuff that I don't know. But I have a framework for which I find the answers and deliver them to you. That's my job, right? As a business consultant, it's not my job to know everything about your industry, right? Or even the solution to your problem that falls under my, my umbrella, right? I don't know everything about marketing, and I definitely don't know everything about marketing as it pertains to your specific business. It is my job to figure that out and translate it into something that you can do with your business and be able to scale it. So that's how I sort of stay grounded in the, like, yes, I am qualified. Yes, I know. It's not because I'm, I think I'm pretty smart, but it's not that I know everything. It's that I know how to find the answers, and I'm okay with not knowing to start and knowing how to get there.
Definitely. And that goes to our next point, right? You know how to help people to make money. So let's talk about
about
the money.
All right.
Right?
Yeah.
All right. So I listened to some few of your live podcasts. And again, we're gonna at the end, Stephon is gonna share like a lot of his social media links, so that this way you could listen to a lot of his past knowledge about money. But let's talk about money for real. Right? One of the things that resonated with me when I did a little bit of research is like in high school, you share like you literally had a locker in high school, in which every student gets a locker, but you somehow figure out how to monetize on renting your locker.
Yes. Yeah.
tell us about that. And what does that say about how you think about money as a person, as Stephon think way to see money, and how can we also share with our viewers like how they should think about money and how they could make more money?
Okay, so all right, well, I'll start with the story. I'll start with the story and I'll go through it. Okay, so yeah, so once upon a time, I'm in high school. I talked about all the, I had a couple of side hustles, so I don't have to ask my parents for money, right? So one was ghostwriting. I had written parent notes because I had really neat handwriting.
Can I just know when you say you don't have to ask your parents for money? Are your parents immigrants?
Yes. They are. Yes. Yeah. So my parents are from Guyana, and so they're West Indian, and I mean they worked really hard. My mom was in education. My dad was a mechanic and a meter reader and was like really good with his hands. But we lived in New York. It's expensive, right? And for me, I understood from a young age that like we don't got it like that. Yeah. And it didn't really hurt my self-esteem. I just knew that we didn't have it like that. Right. And so we weren't poor, but I also wasn't about to be like, hey, mom, dad, can I have $200 to go to the mall? Yeah. Right. And I would sort of like limit the amount of times I would ask my parents for money. So when
you're gonna like the response that
right, exactly. Like I wasn't getting the newest pair of Jordans. Like I wasn't getting a PlayStation when it first came out. Like that's just what I knew, right? And it was okay. And I think that modest way of living sort of helped make me creative, but it also helped me have a respect for, like I didn't necessarily need the fast money because I understood what like consistency would bring me. But yeah, so I the first thing my freshman year, even before anything else, my freshman year, what I realized was my school was really, really massive. It was, so most schools have like campuses and they're sort of spread out. My school, because it's New York, was just like, picture a campus squished, right? So it was like, on some sides, it was 8 floors. In the middle, it was like almost like 13 floors. It was a lot, right? So, and it was like a half a city block. So getting from, you might have a class, so the school's divided northeast, northeast, west, south, right? And you have all these floors. So you might have a class second period in 2 and 5, and you have to go to 6S4 in 4 minutes, right? Those 4 minutes between the bells. So you are on the other side of the street. You gotta go up 4 floors and make it across the building in 4 minutes. And oh, by the way, 5,000 students go to this school. So everybody's moving around at the same time. You run into traffic, all sorts of things. So
wait, you run into traffic inside,
like people traffic. Like there's a bunch of people in the way, right? And then of course you're in high school, so you see your boy, yo, what's good, blah, blah, blah. You see a girl, hey, how you doing, blah, blah, blah. Where you gonna be at? So you're doing all that and then trying to make it to class. So I had a locker on the 6th floor, and it was for one of my classes, but I was a freshman, so I didn't really think about why. I also, you're a freshman, so you don't really understand where to choose your locker at. So I chose my locker there thinking, okay, well, it's the halfway point of my day. I can drop some things off, blah, blah. But the way my brain operated, it wasn't helpful for me. So I was never using this locker. So I would go at the end of school. I might put my jacket in there, but I was never putting my books and like moving stuff around. And at the end of school, I would get it. And then a couple of my friends that I knew were like, yo, Steph, can we throw this in here for a little bit? I was like, yeah, whatever. What's up? It was like, oh, I lost my lock. Mm-hmm. And so the thing is like, you don't really want to tell your parents you lost the lock that they bought you. And you can buy your own lock. Like my dad, again, was sort of mechanics and stuff like that. So I had a little padlock thing, right, with the key. But my friends, like, they might have bought it from the school store and that was like $17. So you lose 2 or 3 of them and that's some money, right? So they were like, yo, can we just put our stuff with you? Sure, no problem. So when I started realizing I've been doing this all the time and I wasn't using it, I was like, look, meet me after school. 3, 4 of y'all can put your stuff in here. Y'all know I'm not gonna go through nothing. I'm cool. And this is what we're gonna do. But if you put it here, like, it's gonna be here for the day. Like, I'm not giving out keys or nothing like that. That's what it's gonna be. And I was like, would y'all do this for like 25 cents a day? And it was like $1 a week to not have to tell my parents that I lost a lock. Yeah, like, why not? right? Because even though it was like, okay, the lock was $17, the real cost was telling your parents you lost the thing, and now you're irresponsible, and da 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 da. That was my hard-earned money, and da 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 da. So I could give you $1 and not have to worry about it.
Right.
So I had like 3 or 4 people do that, right? 25 cents a day. I had a couple of lockers, whatever. Now I have enough money to buy Chinese food and not have to ask nobody. Right. So that's sort of what I sort of realized that it was a thing. So then I was like, okay, well, let me get can I get a lock here? Okay, cool. Like this teacher likes me. I can get a lock right here. And I'm like, I'm talking to people and they're like, yo, bro, you got another lock I can use? Yeah, of course, man. I got you right here. It was 25 cents. Just meet me after school. This is what it is, blah, blah, blah. So that's what I started doing there. So I was like Airbnb and lockers. Before Airbnb was cool, but I wasn't even thinking about it like something I needed to scale or make money with. It was just like, yo, I have this thing. It's inconvenient for me to use it, but it's super convenient for other people to use it. And all I got to do is just make sure nobody steals from each other. All right, cool. And these are all my friends, so we should be fine. So
Very powerful.
yeah.
So Stephon, like, how does that story sort of connect to how people should think about it? And how some of our viewers who are sitting there and kind of struggling with like how to really like increase making more money.
Right. So I think one of the things that I think about is I don't even think about money as like, okay, so I do think about money as money. That's very important. I have bills to pay too, right? And there's been slow times. There's been times where money's been good, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm not worried about nothing. And there's times I'm like, yo, I need this invoice to get paid because rent is due next week.
Right.
And this invoice is due 2 days before rent. So if they are late, I have to start fighting people. Like, so those are real things, right? But one of the things I started thinking about was shifting my mind away from like the dollars and cents of it for a second and thinking about it in terms of value, right? So value, and so I have sort of like a weird philosophy on value. For me, sort of like, the law of conservation of energy, right? Energy is neither created nor destroyed, it just is, right? It just moves. For me, value is neither created or destroyed, it just is. Value is value. And because of that, what we want to do in order for us to like make, to glean more value is to facilitate the flow of it, right? I will make more money if I help people make money, right? So value flows through me. And that way I'm always thinking about how do I position myself at the junction of where money or opportunities are flowing. That's how I think about making money. So what I would tell somebody who's like looking to make more money, and I mean, there's a million things on Instagram of like how to make more money, how to get a side hustle, how to do this, how to do that. I think the first thing I think about is what is the intersection of your skill, right? The list of random things that you're good at. And so it's gonna be more of a junction, right? So the intersection of your skill, your passion, and what are people looking for? What are people struggling with, right? That you're just hearing about. What are people really like, you're like, damn, I wish I had a da-da-da-da-da, right? So not everybody needs to be a graphic designer freelance, obviously, right? You can be good at art, or you be nasty with Photoshop or whatever it is, but that doesn't necessarily mean you need to be in that field. But really think about how can you place yourself at that intersection of what you're seeing people ask for, what you're good at, and what you actually would enjoy doing over and over and over again. And maybe that's something that you do once a weekend, or maybe that's something that you do for a month at a time and then you chill, right? If it's photography, if it's anything, like anything. I sold lockers. Like you can find anything, right? I sold regular brownies, not weed brownies, regular brownies. And I was not even good at it. I just saw people like selling random candy and I was like, yo, would y'all want brownies? Like, oh my God, I love brownies. Oh, you know what? I went to a bake sale for something and everybody wanted brownies and I thought they were mid. I never made brownies before, but my mom bakes really well. So I was like, Mom, I need you to buy like 5 of those like box brownies, right? What are they? Not Stouffer's. Whatever, the box brownie brand.
Is it Pillsbury?
No, it's Pillsbury, but then there's another one, some like white lady's name. But I get the box and I'm like, all right, well, I'm making these brownies how I make them. So I'm making them with her. She's like, I do a little bit of vanilla extract, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So what you gonna do with all these brownies? I'm gonna sell them. She was like, you're not supposed to do that. And I was like, so we made it. Like, I'm gonna do it on a low mile, I'm not gonna get in trouble. She's like, all right, cool. So we did that. And it was like $3 a box. I'm able to cut them up into roughly 9 squares per little thingy. Sold the end pieces for sold the regular pieces for $1. Sold the end pieces for $1.50 because people really like those, and just tried to make them as ooey gooey as I could. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm flipping this and making $20 off of 6. Cool. Like, now I have a little something that I can do every once in a while. And I wasn't passionate about baking, right? But I really did enjoy making something, and people be like, oh yeah, I enjoyed this. This is good, right? So like, I cook for fun now. I'm not like a culinary artist, but like, I enjoy cooking and I enjoy doing those things. So I was like, oh yeah, I don't mind spending an hour, because it really does. That's all it takes, right? Spending an hour doing that and then flipping it. So I say all that to say, when you notice that people are looking for something, right? If you spend a little bit of time, you can find the things that you do that actually satisfies the demand for the thing.
Right. And again, we're gonna pause for a second because again, Stephon, that's just a really powerful, skills, and this conversation in general that we are having right now. And it's like, what resonated with what you just shared with me is this concept of like, most of us are conditioned to spend money. A lot of us also like don't get a lot of push ourselves, or like, being disciplined enough on how to make money, or how to really like find something that you want to do and be successful at it. But I love that based on like your experience in the story, and these stories, this is like, again, these are real story, but it's like your ability to listen to problems and how to find solutions to those problems, how to monetize that. But the people that you also start listening to, because it's your people closer to you.
Right.
I just think that's really powerful. Like sometimes like you find like a Nike company, you look like these companies are making billions of dollars, right? But at some point, like the founder of Nike, like how was he able to actually figure out like this was the problem, and if I could find a solution to this, I could make money of it. But most of these problems is through people closer to you, people in your circle. That's what really resonated with me. What was shared.
Yeah.
Could you expand on that or add anything?
So so Nike's a good one. I watched the And One documentary not too long ago. If you haven't watched it, it's really
on Netflix.
It's on Netflix. Yeah, I think it's Netflix. Yeah, I think it's Netflix.
And one was the brand.
Yeah, so the And One documentary was fire because I remember, so I got into And One sort of after it sort of fizzled out, but the reruns were on ESPN. So one summer I was like there, and it was like it would play in the middle of the day. I started watching and I really got into And One for some reason. I was like, oh, this is fire. Like, this is cool. Like, the professor is this white guy who can blow. Like, what's going on? Like, I was a real big hot sauce fan, all that. So one of the things they talk about in the And One doc is how they gained all this market share in basketball, right? Through creating this community around street ball. Because it was at the time when the NBA, like, they were like sort of over policing the players because Malice at the Palace had happened and all these things were happening. And street ball was sort of this like truer to the culture thing, right? Even though these were some white guys who did not understand it at all, right? They hired a bunch of people who were of the culture. And the commonality between that and sort of what I do is when you listen to the people closest to the problem, you will always be able to create solutions that are more, they're more pertinent to the issue, right? They're faster acting solutions. They're solutions that get to the heart of the matter faster. So And One was able to skyrocket in popularity so fast because they were so close to the solution. Nike started from a different perspective, right? Nike was like, okay, we got a sneaker, we do this. We're going to be everywhere if we land a basketball player who's going to be great. They landed Jordan. right? And so they rode that and was able to sort of make that a ubiquitous brand, right? But N1 had the streets. Now, the issue with N1 and why they fell apart was two things. They seen Nike, and Nike was like, yes, it's a wrap for you, right? And that was that. But where N1 really fumbled the ball was when they stopped thinking about it from the perspective of being close to the streets. They quickly pivoted and became this like sort of distant company and didn't realize the value of when they had the street ball team, continue to cultivate that community, make sure that they felt like they belong, generate a sense of loyalty to that thing, and make them stakeholders in building out the brand. Because what happened was that they became sort of mascots for N1, but they never actually had anything to do with N1. They were just contractors.
That's wild.
Right? And so when those guys started to get upset and N1 started to not make as much money, and when Nike started to realize what the mistakes were and was like, okay, well, we have the money to fix that. We can do all of that. And one started to fall apart, and they were like, oh, sorry. And the street ball guys had no money, nothing to go to, because they never had equity in the thing in the first place, right? So I think for anybody who's watching at home, it's, if you're trying to build a solution, it's like, listen to the people closest to the problem you're trying to solve, and like, you know, compare it and contrast it with other people who have other perspectives. But when you're doing that, also make sure that those people are stakeholders in the solution, because then you will continuously be able to like iterate and create things that actually answer questions, rather than creating things that are just sort of like out of your head, right? These concepts and these hypotheses that don't really do anything. So that's how I think about it. And I think you will always be in a position to win, whether that's money, whether that's, I don't know, influence or whatever, because you're focused on that thing. Same thing on creating a presence on Instagram. It's like when you're creating stuff that people care about, and you know people care about it, and you continuously ask for their feedback of like, what do you want to see and how do you want to do? The best content creators do that, right? Of like, oh, you want to see something, or this is funny to you? What else do you want to talk about? What else are you feeling? Are they looking in the comments in that engagement and getting ideas from the people themselves? People will tell you what they want. They will tell you what they want to pay you for. They will tell you what inspires them. You just got to listen. So
Like, I got a quick follow up with that. So you were able to basically, you know, find what you're good at technically at a young age, and you build on that, listen to people, be close to the problem, and you were able to monetize. In a lot of situations, or most people, they be like, okay, I need money. And that kind of clouds your judgment. You don't really analyze what's around you. I need money, I need it fast, I need it now. And you're not able to develop your own value and build on that skills. What kind of advice will you give to other people of, you know, there's always a way to make money, but how do you cultivate your I guess unique value or your proposition, or put yourself in a better proposition? Because, you know, being young, the first thing you'll be thinking like, oh, there's some hustle, especially in New York, there's some hustlers over there, there's some people over there, I can do this and that. And
so I think that two things. One is I did that, right? I started from nothing. I started from negative money, right? And started to build something that, you know, I can sit down and be like, hey, I can have a conversation with somebody about a 5-figure deal and be like comfortable in that, right? But the thing is that I wish I didn't. I wish I didn't do it that way. And sometimes I'm grateful. So I guess what I'll share is like just sort of why of both, and then people can do what they want to do with this. But sometimes the reasons why I wish I didn't was because I felt like I couldn't afford to make a mistake. And that is the number one, more than anything else, that's the number one killer of businesses to me.
So you had like this sense of urgency.
I had a sense of urgency, yes, but it also became paralysis because I was like, I don't have money. This can't fail. I can't do that. I can't experiment here. I don't have time to learn a new skill because I have to sell. I don't have time to build a network because I need to pay these bills. I don't have time to do any of the other things that are important to maintaining a business because I need to survive. So I was in survival mode when survival mode can only last but so long.
that's true.
Right? The reason why I'm grateful is because for me, part of that answer was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna have to make time. Right? So I have a story of I met somebody at a networking event. We had a really we talked. We were having a really good phone call, and she was interested in working with me. It's one like this is the early days, right? I'm broke at this point, and I'm trying to sell her. Right? I'm like, okay, I need to make this money. I'm gonna come up with a price. I'm gonna give her something that she likes because I think that's gonna be able to do it. I might have tried to sell it for like $800, right? But what I was doing was not communicating. I was communicating cost, not value. Right? And those are two different things. Yep. Cost is how much I'm going to pay for it. Value is how much is this worth in money, in time, in convenience, in how am I getting better. Value is a much more bigger thing, right? But when your back is against the wall and you're looking for money, you start losing sight of value, right? So you start to diminish all of that to do it. But anyway, I learned by doing, and so I'm pitching this thing, and I always give if I'm on a prospect call, I always give one piece of advice that regardless of whether or not you work with me, this will have some immediate impact if you do it right. So I give her some advice. She ain't like the advice.
Was it due to her understanding the value, or you didn't provide the value?
It was due to her understanding of the value, but the lesson is actually from what I do after. Okay. So she didn't like any advice, and I won't even get into it. But yeah, she was off base because it just didn't match with what she said her brand was. Mm-hmm. So it was like what she said her brand was and what was actually available based on what she said what her brand was didn't match. And I said like, look, this is what you need to do because this is what you said you're about. And she was like, well, I'm working with this person, and I'm working with this person that works at Milano de Rouge, and I work with da-da-da. I was like, oh, but here you are on the phone with me. So I'm telling you but anyway. So I get off that call, and again, I'm telling you, I was in the space of, I can't afford to fail, right? So I knew that I botched that call, right? I wasn't going to work with her. What I learned later on was that we just weren't aligned, and that wasn't the person I was supposed to be with on the phone anyway. But I looked at that as failure. Now, the way I used to channel failure back then was I would work myself to the bone. So for the next 47 hours, I kid you not, 47, I went and my site was under construction, and she like mentioned it because she felt the type of way about what I said. So she was like, how I know you even the best? Your site's, you don't even have a website up. And I was like, it's under construction. She was like, well, how am I supposed to know that? Blah, blah, blah. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna show her. So for the next 2 days, I was awake working on the website and added all this stuff to the site and added all these features and all this stuff. And it was nasty. It was bad times. And also the site wasn't written well because it was like, I'm adding all this stuff, and I'm like, I used to write, so I'm like writing all this prose on the website, and that's not what it's supposed to do. That's not SEO capable. So I'm doing all this stuff because I can't afford to fail, and it wasn't even good stuff anyway, right? I never made a sale off of that website. I wasn't even proud to send people to that site. I had to go pay somebody to do it anyway, and it was helpful because I learned some things. Right. But it was like, if I would just sit back for a second and be like, look, that is okay. Right. I'm in a position where like I want to communicate value, not cost. I want to be able to get myself better, not sell. Then you can do a lot better. You can do a lot more with that. So
just another powerful statement. I just feel like sometimes that when you say stuff, we just need to a moment to again dissect and soak it up, because these are really powerful things, and I appreciate you. We're getting close to the end of the race here, but so we're just gonna have one or two questions for you. But go ahead, too.
Do you have any free consultation? Try to make a lot of money by the end of the year.
So I had stopped doing one-on-one consultations for a little bit. I am going to open that up in November, and I'm going to open up like some office hours essentially. Now, when I'm working with somebody, like I always do like a free sort of like discovery call. We can talk about some things and stuff like that. And I always sort of overstuff that with value anyway. Like I tell people stuff that I probably shouldn't have told them for free, but like I do it anyway. But I will open up some office hours starting this first week of November. I'm going to open up like maybe like 5 or 6 30-minute slots a week for people to sort of just like, pick my brain a little bit. And I don't do that often. But there's a number of ways that folks can work with me for the rest of the quarter. I'm not sure if that was you're asking, if you're just asking that. Okay. So there's 3 ways to work with me currently. So my firm Rhetoric Advising primarily works with companies larger than 10 employees, but we do have some offerings for smaller companies. So your solopreneurs and people up to 10. So I have 3 slots left for this quarter for one-on-one sort of consulting that I call the executive experience. So we do a 90-day sort of run through of mission and vision and really getting deep into it. Like people cry on those calls. It's a real thing. And so getting into why you do what you do, and then also how to communicate your value in the marketplace to be able to create offers, right? So that's the executive experience. I'm also doing an idea to income boot camp. So that's going to be 3 consecutive Mondays in November. So it's going to be the 7th, 14th, and 21st. And so that boot camp, so it's gonna be Monday evenings. So 3 Monday evenings. And that boot camp is going to run from, if you have a business and you're like, look, I have a concept really. How do I actually understand and learn how to do the market research in order to reach my target audience? So we're gonna create ideal clients and like what that really means. And then we do a thing where I call a value map of being able to say, this is my business or my product. These are the things that make it what I call a painkiller and a vitamin, right? So when people always like, oh yeah, you want to think of yourself as a painkiller, right? The problem in the market is a headache to somebody, right? How do you alleviate that? But then there's another aspect to it, what I call being the vitamin, where you position yourself as the thing that if you continuously interact with me or buy from me or whatever, you'll never have this pain again. So that's what we work on 3 consecutive Mondays. People will have an entire plan of how they'll be able to do that, and then be able to start to build content and do their paid marketing and stuff like that. So that is the 7th, 14th, 21st, 3 weeks. And then the last thing is I do have an ebook. And so it's called the Small Biz Blueprint. And I have completely undermarketed this thing because I wrote it and it was one of those things where I'm the marketing guy, but like I also sometimes I'm just like, yeah, no, I ain't gonna the book or whatever. Like, yeah, if y'all find it, y'all could do it. No. So I'm really pushing it because it's chock full of a lot of things I've talked about on this podcast, but it gets even into the more nitty gritty of marketing, of understanding business banking. I have recommendations for trademark attorneys and accountants and financial advisors. Like I have all of that in the ebook. It's like 42 pages of stuff. So definitely check that out. That's on my Instagram and on my site as well.
And then can you just tell our viewers like where they could actually find you?
Yeah. So you can find me on Instagram at StephMart_CEO. So that's STEPHMART_CEO. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter under that handle. You can find me on LinkedIn. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. At my name, Stephon Braithwaite-Martin. You can find our company, Rhetoric Advising, at rhetoricadvising.com. That's RHETORIC advising, ADVISING.com. You can find the Connect on the Connect PHL, at the Connect PHL on Instagram, the Connect.pro on web, and we have tons and tons of things there. So we do a mastermind every month. We do so our next mastermind's on real estate and whether house hacking is like the move for you. So for my people who own property or want to own property or thinking about that, we have one of the people on our team, Noelle. She's a licensed realtor, and so she's going to walk us through sort of how that works and take us through her experiences. We do a bi-weekly live called Put Us On, where we get a different person and different discipline, and they talk a little bit about their career and give us some real things that we can take out into the community. We've got so much going on. So, yeah. I'm in these digital and physical streets.
I don't know how you sleep, bro.
I don't.
You busy, man. You're a busy man.
Yeah, man.
And that goes to how you find the time to keep up the swag.
This is, man, this is, I think that's the thing I use.
A little bit about the swag that we see here, man. Top notch and.
I mean, look, it's. I think that's sort of one of my creative outlet,
Right.
and it's also, I think, what I've used to sort of develop my edge, and so I've always enjoyed like dressing up, right, wearing clothes of whatever kind. So I'm not always in a suit, but I enjoy wearing a suit and like enjoy the art of putting an outfit together, whether it's colors or patterns or whatever. That's just always something I've really, really loved, and yeah, I think that, as a networking tip, because I know we were trying to put this into actual actionable things, right? So my favorite networking tip, especially for introverts, so I'm looking directly at the camera because I know y'all not gonna talk to me unless I talk to you first. So for my introverts, the one thing I always recommend when you're going to a networking session is give people a reason to talk to you, because if starting a conversation is difficult, right, have the conversation started for you. So one of the things that I always try to do is, I'm not necessarily an introvert, but I have introverted moments, right? I have days where I don't want to talk to nobody, my head hurts, I'm tired, but I know I still have a goal, is I like to give somebody something to comment on. So if it's like, oh, hey, I like your pocket square, bam, now we can talk, right? Because now they're going to be like, oh, yeah, I'm such and such, and this is what I do, and I can talk about what I do, and we can make something happen. Or if there is somebody who's particularly funny or something like that, and I laugh at their joke, they're like, oh, hey, what's your name? Great. Like, that's what it is, right? So I always look for have somebody have a reason to talk to me, because I know that once I get going, I can have more conversations after that. But, that's what I do if I don't know anybody. If I do know somebody, I'm coming to them and being like, yo, who have you met? And they'll be like, oh, yeah, I'll introduce you to such and such. Like, based on our conversation, we had this. And now you have that license to be able to talk again. So I always give them a reason. I'll either come early or I'll come late, because people will talk to you if you're like, oh, yeah, you missed the thing. Or like, oh, your entrance was cool, I want to talk to you. So I always have something to talk about. Yeah.
Appreciate you, Steph, for being on this talk show.
Of course, man.
There's a lot of gems and knowledge and wisdom that you were able to actually share with our viewers. Honestly, Steph, like, you one of a kind. Like,
I appreciate that.
If you really want to get better at what you do, or you really want to push yourself and challenge yourself, Stephon is definitely one of those guys that you want to continue to follow, and because there's not that many people in your life that you look at and you're like, this is someone that want to make me better, so that make me good at what I do.
Yeah.
And so you definitely one of those people, and we want to make sure that you continue to increase your impact. So definitely check him out. Our last question for me is, it's jollof rice.
Okay.
All right. So I want you to take your time here, because we want you to just let us know which country has the best jollof rice.
Oh.
Right. So we have Nigeria, Ghana, and of course we got Senegal. We also got Liberia. Which West African country do you think makes the best jollof rice?
Oh man, I've had all of those. Wow.
And you like one of the few people who
I've had all
from experience, not just making this up.
I've had Nigerian, I've had Ghanaian, I've had Liberian, I've had Senegalese. Oh man. So okay, I'll say it this way. Based on what I've had so far, the best jollof I've had has been Ghanaian jollof.
Hey, all right. So
far.
You need to have a flag here. So we just wave.
All right.
Today,
You just lay the flags out on the table and just put it up.
Today we wave Ghana jollof.
The best one I've had so far has been Ghanaian. I've had really good Nigerian. I had a bad experience with Senegalese. A bad experience. It was good the other time. And then Liberian was pretty good. But yeah, Ghanaian,
But today we
Ghanaian took the cake.
got
Yeah.
it bell today.
Was it something?
Toby's gonna take this person, but it's all good.
Was that somebody's mama's house or was that like a restaurant?
No, it was somebody's mom. Yeah, it was somebody's mom, and yeah, no, they threw down. And so I had somebody's moms for Ghanaian and Nigerian, and those are the top two. So to be fair, if I meet somebody's Liberian mom or somebody's Senegalese mom, then we'll see. I haven't been able to really evaluate it at full strength, but I did.
We keep tallies of this. For every guest that we have, we're gonna keep asking this question. And so far, I do think it's like it's a tie between Ghana and Nigeria.
Yeah, those are two titans.
Last guest picked Nigerian jollof rice.
Yeah,
Right?
so, yeah.
Stephon, you came up here, you brought Ghana back. So so Ghana is back for the Jollof World Cup. All right. Thanks, Mr. Stephon.
Thank you.
We'll see what our next guest is gonna share.
Yeah, I mean, now I'm investing in that, so I'm gonna be looking at these Jollof wars and seeing what.
We got all the scoreboard.
For sure.
At the end of the year, we're gonna have a huge announcement.
Yeah.
But other than that, appreciate you, brother.
Appreciate you guys, man. For sure, man.
So,
I ain't
any
gonna-
last word?
Nah, y'all said it all, man. We did.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.